Bobby Charlton. Well done, Manchester United.
It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer has done it!
Hello, welcome to United Hour, your official redcafe.net podcast for all things Manchester United. My name's Imran.
I'm Colm.
And I'm Jamie.
And we're coming to you literally minutes after the full-time whistle at Anfield, where United and Liverpool played out a thrilling 0-0 draw. Liverpool's third game in a row where they haven't scored a goal, so we'll blame it on them as opposed to us, all their fault. Big game, built up all week really, and like often with these big games, kind of flattered to deceive in the end, ended up a bit of a damp squib, but we'll still drill into it and see what we can come out of it with. I don't know about you two, but for me, I just never enjoy these games. Like, it's not like when people say, oh, I'm looking forward to this game, I don't look forward to it. I would happily just, this game never happened, but you know, that's football. You have to play your rivals at some point, but I just don't look forward to it at all. How are you feeling going up to the game, Colm?
Not great. It's the thing, like, you want it to come really quickly, but also you don't want to actually experience it most of the time. So it's one of those odd situations. I think you're always kind of hoping for those kind of magical blowout games where you score 2 or 3 goals in the first 10 minutes, and it just never happens in games like this, particularly against Liverpool. I mean, particularly at Anfield, it's just always so difficult, really, regardless of each team's standing and form and all that. It's just its own thing, and it's just something to get through. So if you had offered me that at the start of the day, I would have taken it.
Yeah. Jamie, how are you looking forward to the game, and were you feeling confident? Do you feel what were you hoping for United from this game?
I was looking forward to it in the week and yesterday, but then all day today I just wasn't looking forward to it. I kind of echo you guys saying you never really enjoy the Liverpool games. It's ones that I don't look forward to. I would happily skip by them in terms of a viewing pleasure if I could, just because I always get really nervous when we're playing Liverpool, especially at Anfield. I did think a draw before the game and leading up to the game would have been a very good result, and I was just hoping we put in a good performance, because I knew coming into it Liverpool were going to have issues with their centre-back pairing, possibly some issues in midfield. That's the third game in a row, as we've said, that they haven't scored a goal, so they were having issues with goal scoring as well. So I thought if ever you're going to go and have a really good chance at getting a positive result at Anfield, that this was it. So I just, before the game, was hoping that we would acquit ourselves quite well, put in a good performance, and if that was a draw or even better, a win at the end of the game, I would have taken that before the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a point for us, which keeps us 3 points ahead of Liverpool in the league. And before the game, I was kind of joking, I'll take a boring 0-0 draw all day long. When you actually have to sit through one, that's a different story maybe. But, I mean, statistically, this is the hardest game in the league. Liverpool are the champions, and they have the best home record for the last 4 years or whatever, so actually going there and winning is a tough order. So I think a draw is a good result in that sort of viewpoint. Colm, are you happy with the point after the game, after seeing how the game played out?
I'm delighted with the point after the game. You look at the table, of course, delighted. Just keeps that margin, and the league or the rest of our season was never going to be defined today. It was not going to hinge, as much as Sky wanted you to think it was, on the result of today. If we get smashed 6-1 today, maybe it would derail our season, but I don't really think it's that deep. I think the one thing that you could say is possibly a convincing win would have been a real statement, and could have possibly teed us up to play with a bit more confidence that I think will be required if you really want to challenge for the entire season. That remains to be seen, obviously. But no, I don't think today was as determinative as maybe we think. It's still, it's not even halfway through the season, so it's just, I just was a little bit, more than a little bit, I was just upset with how we played. I thought we were rubbish, basically. I thought we were excellent defensively, but I don't think we set up to play football barely at all. I actually think we played much better against City and lost 2-0. And, this is obviously a much better point than losing 2-0 against City, but we played much better football in a much more positive way than we did today. And I appreciate their different games at different junctures and all that, so it's maybe not the most accurate comparison, but I just feel a little let down by that. I just wanted more.
Yeah, we'll get into the performance in a bit, but we'll start with the starting lineups. So for us, Bailly came out, much to a lot of people's surprise, as he's been playing really well, and Lindelof came back in. Possibly in a show from Ollie that he wants us to be a bit more unerratic at the back, potentially. Not to say that Bailly's like the most crazy person in the world at the moment, but you always get those moments from him, whereas Lindelof's about as strong and steady as you get without being too glamorous. And also we had Pogba playing out wide with Cavani on the bench and Martial and Rashford ahead. So, Jamie, how do you think we lined up? And were you surprised to see Lindelof come in?
I thought most of the lineup picked itself and was fine. Lindelof coming in did disappoint me purely off the fact that Bailly has been very good recently. I know you're saying that maybe less erratic in picking Lindelof, which is a fair point. But I think when Bailly has been as solid and as good as he has been, I just think it was really disappointing not to see him in the team. And I also thought if Liverpool's front three could get going, Bailey's pace might have been better placed to be in that team, because we've seen him in the last few games cover well for Maguire. If Maguire maybe moves out to cover the left back, for example, the left back position, because it's been vacated just for a period of time, Bailey covers well and has great pace to cover that gap. But yeah, I like Lindelof anyway. I think he's solid. I don't think he's anything spectacular, but I think he's a good player and he's solid. So it was fair enough him coming in, but I just was disappointed not to see Bailey there. Pogba played really well against Burnley, so it was one of those you have to find a place for him in the team. I was just surprised that it was on the right-hand side. The Martial inclusion was the biggest one for me. I really thought Cavani would have played instead of him, maybe Rashford on the left-hand side, Cavani up front, just because Martial really hasn't been in great goal-scoring form at all. And with who Liverpool had playing at centre-half, I really thought there was a chance of having Cavani up front and having a real strong player up front kind of bully their centre-halves a wee bit. I know Fabinho had a good game in the end, but on paper before the game, looking at the lineups, I thought that was a chance missed not to go with Cavani up front.
I think, so Liverpool had Fabinho and Henderson at the back as their centre-back pairing. Neither of them recognised centre-back, so Fabinho has been doing a fantastic job for them this season and was probably their standout defender, really. But to me, it didn't really feel like Henderson actually had anything to do in the game. I feel like it just kind of delegated it to Fabinho and he kind of did everything, whereas Henderson was next to him just not really doing much, just passing the ball around. I think we didn't really test him at all in the game, even though we did create a couple of chances in the second half, which we'll get to. I do think we obviously could have done a lot more to put them under pressure. Colm, we started the game, I thought, quite poorly and kind of let Thiago, especially in that first 20 minutes, run the show, and we just couldn't put a pass together, I don't think, really. Completely erratic on the ball and giving it to them as soon as we got it back, potentially. How do you see that first 20 minutes going?
It was tough viewing. It was pretty damning stuff. It really exposed, I think, McTominay and Fred against, admittedly elite, competition, but there just looked to be a real inferiority complex about the entire team. I didn't think it looked like we entered in a good frame of mind. It didn't look like we entered with any kind of positivity, and we just weren't able to deal with their first press at all. It took until about the 30th minute, basically, when they eased off a bit, for us to actually play through a press at all. Before that, we barely progressed it beyond our own 18-yard line, and more often just played ourselves into corners with asking Sean and Wan-Bissaka to do just ridiculously difficult things to get the ball away in any kind of beneficial way. I thought McTominay and Fred both, first touch was always a clearance when it didn't always have to be. There just seemed to be no composure whatsoever, a lot of nervousness. And of course, Liverpool do exert a tremendous amount of pressure with their running and with their hounding of a team. And I think they will have been very keyed up to kind of press our backline, because we have committed to playing out from the back this year. Since Ole came in, really, but we're not just amazing at it due to, I think, a lack of confidence and some personnel issues, but they were able to make it a big problem, and it was only kind of very late in the first half and in the second half that we ever got beyond that. And I thought that inferiority complex kind of stayed throughout the game. It was certainly better in the second half, but I don't think it was only when we started creating chances that I think we realised that we could actually, this is a game we could be doing a lot more in. And I do wonder if it's hard, easy to pick holes now, but I do wonder if Matic would have made something of a difference, just a cooler head on the ball. But it really was endemic across the whole team, so I'm not sure that it really would have made a difference, because Aaron Wan-Bissaka was giving away, Rashford was giving away, McFred, both, really sloppy. Every touch was a clearance, basically. There was really no one except Luke Shaw, I thought, who seemed to be on a level to actually kind of shield the ball, keep it, and find good passes, But, it's Anfield. It's a team who are just getting back to that kind of level versus a team that have dominated that level, for the last 2 years. Although it is a weak moment for Liverpool, but it's still Anfield against Liverpool,
Yeah.
So I think you have to be relatively, you can't go OTT on criticism for that first 30 minutes. Although it did look, if Liverpool weren't so blunt, they really should have created so much more. I mean, the fact that we've come away with that game with the best chances beggars belief.
Yeah, well, it's a weird game in that sense because, Liverpool were always going to come out. The first 20 minutes, Liverpool were always going to come out and put the most pressure on us. Then that's when they were going to be up for the game, and then there's going to be a natural drop off, which we saw. Even in the game they drew against West Brom, the first half or first 30 minutes, they were all over West Brom. They should have scored all their goals then. It's just that their attackers look nothing like they usually do. But even with that caveat, we still should be able to do simple things well.
Yeah.
We still should be able to not lose our head and not just give them the ball back straight away, or we should be able to be calm.
I don't know what you put that down to. I think the team has a lot of growth to do in terms of confidence. You don't just become a brilliant team who's super confident and, has that conviction to play a certain way. That really only comes over time. Klopp didn't give it to Liverpool for at least a year. You really have to work at that and kind of earn that. And that's what Liverpool still absolutely have. So I hope we're on that path. And I do think in the previous weeks, you've kind of been seeing a bit more confidence, particularly that Burnley game, 0-0. It never felt like we weren't going to get a goal in a sense, and that sort of speaks to that. However, against the top teams this year, which has been evidenced against Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, to a lesser extent, Champions League, mixed bag. We don't have it in those big games. When we come up against the big team, we are very much reverting to type. And a little bit, I don't think Ole helps in kind of setting up in a way. He has to be pragmatic, I understand, but it just seemed to me it was a negative start that came. It's not just the players lacking confidence. I don't think there was instruction there, to keep it tight kind of thing, which, okay, it worked out in the end, but I was really happy. Not really happy. I was okay with the City game because we went out and played them. And that's this United team has to move forward to that. You don't win anything if you can't win or perform in the big games. And I've seen pretty much everything else from Ole at this stage. I know people say he's done it in the big games. He's done it in the big games in a way that is completely unsustainable for a top team. We have to actually go and play football and compete with these teams as an elite football team.
Yeah.
Our form over the last year is championship winning form. Don't get me wrong. We are beating the small teams now. We are playing more good attacking football. Our defence, as it was today, is pretty good, really very good. It's just how we play football in the big games that is kind of the last piece of the puzzle, it looks like to me, and that's quite optimistic thing, really, but it's kind of frustrating also.
Yeah, you could say we've beaten the top teams when we've not been a top team ourselves, but now we're trying to become a top team.
It's an oddity, exactly. You can't rely on that shtick. It was a means to an end with the team and the squad he had around him, the Lingards, the Pereiras, the whatevers, He has a much better squad than that now. He has a Van der Beek sitting on the bench. He has, quality players that should be able to go up against Liverpool's side and give a slightly better account of themselves.
I guess the one thing is that, Fergie always loved to keep it tight for the first 10-20 at Anfield. So it's nothing new per se, just keeping it tight. And we were tight at the back at the very, even if we were giving the ball away, our defence was very tight today and gave away. The chances for Liverpool came at a premium. Now, whether that was because their strikers aren't playing well. Salah looks dreadful, actually. I think Salah was really bad.
Luke Shaw had him in the pocket.
He did. I thought Shaw was excellent, but
yeah, I don't think Salah
more away from what
really
he did with Salah.
Yeah.
It wasn't I thought Salah gave him an easy job, but it was he's more his time on the ball, his composure, stuff like that made him, I thought, our man of the match. But Mane probably looks their only one that's anywhere near what you would expect. Jamie, do you put it? How much do you put it on their attackers being poor or our defence being good?
I think the defence was very good. for half an hour, they were all over us in the sense that we kept giving the ball away. We couldn't retain any possession. They kept pressing high and winning it back. And then they were very blunt, that is true. But I just thought defensively we were very, very good today. I thought to a man at the back, the defenders all played well. De Gea dealt with what he had to with minimum fuss. Shaw was excellent. My man of the match by far. But there is a lot of truth to the fact that Liverpool just this season and at the moment aren't anywhere near as good going forward as they have been. It's not just Salah. I mean, Firmino used to get loads of stick last year because he wasn't scoring any goals, but you could see the effect he had on the other players and would chip in with a lot of very good play to help make chances for the other players. But even he's not doing that now either. He's not really making chances for other players. And Carragher gave him a bit of stick in the first half, saying that there was 3 half chances Firmino had. Okay, they amounted to absolutely nothing and were shots well wide of the target, but it's 3 chances he's had and had absolutely no conviction with the chances at all. And it's one of those, it comes down on both sides. It's a very good defensive solidity from United, but Liverpool going forward just at the moment really aren't as good as they used to be. For me, the biggest frustration with the first half wasn't how on top Liverpool were for half an hour, because as I said, I thought we were dealing with it pretty effectively. We're just so cheap in turning over possession at times. It's untrue. I understand the desire to play out from the back, but sometimes you just need to change it up a bit. Just constantly playing out from the back just means their attackers are just going to come and stand on your defenders every single time because they know the ball's never going long. It's either going left to Maguire or Shaw, or it's going right to Lindelof or Bailey, then Wan-Bissaka. It's not going any further forward, even in the midfield, than McTominay or Fred. It's just a short pass, either out to the left, through the middle or right. There's nothing going even like a long pass at all to even just kind of turn the opposition back the way a little bit and make them think about, is the ball coming over the top? Is it going long? Is it going down the middle? Is it going short? And then they're reacting to whatever we are doing. It's just constantly trying to play this out from the back when at times we are under massive pressure in the sense that the other team is having all the ball, is dictating all the play. You just need to change it up a bit. We weren't helped by a lot of players panicking in the first half and this just launching balls after they get them under pressure. They just turn and just hit it somewhere long after we've already been pressed. So it was just very frustrating for the first half an hour between trying to play it out from the back, not succeeding, eventually losing the ball in midfield, and then the last resort at that point is then just launch it into Liverpool's half. They get the ball and it just comes back, and it just seemed for half an hour that was just the constant theme. The ball just kept coming back and we just kept cheaply turning over possession to the other side. It was just a really frustrating 30 minutes.
It felt to me like a clear tactic from us was to try and launch that ball behind their defence as soon as possible, where actually maybe we needed to take an extra pass before trying that pass, or actually like a lot of those passes also went straight down the middle of the pitch, supposed to like playing it down the line. We didn't really play into their channels at all, really. And then obviously like we got caught offside a lot in that first. I think there was 7 offsides.
7 times in the first half.
Well, you just need to be calm a bit, especially like Pogba and Fernandes. Like
patience,
they were just so desperate to get that ball over the top, and you could see. I guess go on, Colm.
I think you're absolutely right, but I think it's just a bit of a naivety because I think when they look up, they can see that it's just wide open. I mean, Liverpool were wide open at the back, and with our front three, you would expect that ball to be on so often. And as you say, it's just that little bit of kind of, are you actually best placed to play the pass, or would there be one more kind of pass that would unlock everything there? And just a lot of players on different wavelengths and snatching at things a little bit, wanting to kind of do it. And I do think, you can have that in a big build up to a big game, particularly when you're in kind of slightly uncharted territory, certainly for this United team, in that in your mind, in your head, it kind of all seeps in. It becomes too much. It becomes a bigger occasion than it even actually is, even though it is a big occasion, and you don't necessarily just relax into it. And I think that was really key. And I think that'll come, obviously. I think this United team has still a lot of growing to do in that sense, but it was a little bit frustrating because there's good enough players out there to do so much better. And, it's not even those big long balls in behind where we are consistently and constantly offside. And by the way, see our attackers on the offside line. I don't mind so much the ones where it's Rashford running through and he's caught, a half step ahead of the defender. I'll take that offside every single day of the week. See when you're just lollygagging around, like wide left or wide right, and you can't, Pogba and Martial both guilty of it, and you can't maintain an onside position when you're in space and asking for the ball. Very, very, very frustrating.
See the one sorry, Colm, just see on the near side, that was the one that frustrated me the most. There was one, I can't remember if it was Rashford or Pogba.
I think it was
Pogba.
There was
one where Wan-Bissaka was running forward, and it's so lazy. It's so lazy. Just standing in an offside position, and eventually Wan-Bissaka runs so far forward, the only option he's got is to pass it to whoever it was that was offside.
Yeah. Plus, especially when you have treated the ball with such a lack of respect, throughout the game, and I do really think that's key to United. We don't. I appreciate we want to be this breakneck counter-attack speed, but it can't always be that. And Bruno shouldn't escape criticism here because he was the worst culprit.
I thought he was
always is.
I thought
that's the worst game I've seen him have for United.
Absolutely,
terrible.
And it was he does that a lot. But against weaker teams, he'll also mix in all the kind of the good stuff and the valuable contributions. But in that game, because the ball was kept away from us for such large swathes, at that point you have to be wise enough to take care of it and treat it with respect and like a precious commodity, which is what it was at that time. And to have those then cheap offsides, and I mean, I keep coming back to it, but Fred McTominay, it was just like every time they got the ball, it was just an over the shoulder, no look, 20-yard woofter of a pass. Like, it wasn't even, I don't even know what the idea was for most of the pass, and it was literally just, it did seem a little bit like blind panic, and that's a bit of a disappointment. To I think play that badly and on the ball speaks to how well we defended and how blunt Liverpool were, because you shouldn't be allowed to get away with that kind of poor play. Like, it was dire.
That was terrible at times.
What I thought was like, I personally would say for like Fernandes and Rashford are two of our best players, and the fact they had such bad games and yet we were very much in this game is a testament to A, how poor Liverpool were, and B, how far we've come as a team, I guess. Like, this last season, that game against Liverpool, we were never in it. We were never going to win that. There was not a hope we were going to win that game. We lost 2-0.
No.
And even the season before that, we lost 3-1, I think. No hope we were going to win that game. Whereas today, I think whether it's Liverpool regressing and us kind of going, like, stepping up a level to meet them, even when our best players didn't perform, and you can, like, Fernandes definitely didn't perform today, and neither did Rashford. Like, we were still in that game, and we could have nicked it. So I guess that's one positive. And funnily enough, our best over-the-top pass came from Rashford to Fernandes, whereas Alisson had a kick out, and then if it had just fallen a bit, Cavani would have had an interesting open net to put it in. But I think with also with Fred and McTominay, it's weird to me. Like, sometimes, like, both of them, they'll do incredibly, like, they'll be under pressure and they'll do some incredible turns. Even in this game, there was sometimes they'll do a turn away and you think that was really impressive. Like, quick feet, really turned away, and a quick pass, and you think that was really good. Why don't you just do that every time? Then other times they look like they never kicked the ball in their life. Doesn't make sense to me. But anyway,
I find them two very much like Rashford and Martial, and a bit just like this team in general. It's not a huge criticism. There's just an inconsistency there that comes from a lack of experience or a lack of winning or a lack of the appropriate mentality. But, just like Rashford is just can be such a polemic player in terms of the wide range, from absolutely astounding to absolutely abysmal, from week to week. And Martial, very much the same. McTominay, all the players do so many things. You're like, yeah, that's absolutely it. That's the correct thing to do. That's great play. Look at that switch of play. Look at that level of quality. And then it just seems to desert them, and consistency really is the hallmark of great players. It's not just the easiest thing in the world to attain or to throw out there every week, but I do hope we're moving towards it, because it is frustrating.
And plus, I did think, like you said, maybe Matic, especially after his performance against Burnley, albeit is Burnley, might have made a little bit of a difference. But I mean,
I think it's a headache for Ole that match selection wise, because you could pick 3 different lineups very comfortably. I think you can make a good argument for Cavani starting. You could have made a good argument for 5 at the back, and Bailly and Lindelof. I actually thought, whilst I was in the same camp as everyone else in terms of really thinking Bailly had done extremely well recently and wanting his pace, actually, for the way the game went, Lindelof was far more suited to that, and was, I thought, only behind Shaw in terms of our performers. Thought he was better than Maguire, who was also very decent.
Yeah, let's talk about our defence.
You know?
Let's talk about defence a bit, because we obviously, I think the Lindelof inclusion meant that we set up very deep. Like our line our line never really. I don't think it ever went past the 40-yard line.
We only engaged them at the 18-yard line, and that was for lots of reasons, but it was very disappointing.
Well, it was just deep all the time, basically. And I think that obviously suits Maguire and Lindelof with their style of defending. But like you said, like I thought like Bailly really should have started the game, but in hindsight now, like Lindelof was kind of perfect for that game. I think there was one time in the first half where Salah got away from him down the line, but then never really did much, and Maguire covered. But then in the second half, he did a fantastic block from across from Alexander-Arnold. I think it was Wijnaldum would have had a tap in otherwise, and that was just an excellent volley, block.
He hammered it in, and it's just But I thought, like generally speaking, we defend, and I've noticed this a lot this season. We defend our box extremely well from possession style attacks. So, deep balls into the box and set piece delivery, stuff like that's still a weak issue. But in general, particularly when the ball's on the floor, we have extremely conscientious defenders. The positioning is normally bang on in terms of picking up those kind of awkward spaces around the 6-yard box that can cause real issues. So when teams get to the byline, it just seems inevitable that our players are going to be the first ones to receive the ball and clear it. McTominay is extremely good at it. Pogba has been brilliant at it. And Lindelof and by Maguire are also excellent at it. Wan-Bissaka always tucks it in and does very well in that sense when the ball's on the floor, and when we're kind of sitting back and letting teams come on to us, I think we defend the box like as well as anybody. And also Luke Shaw, I mean, is just everything you would ever want him to be at the moment. Like, I thought he was unbelievable today. Character, quality, press resistance, great defending, physicality. Like,
he had good nous as well, I thought, at times as well.
There was one point.
Good.
Let's just say there's one point in the second half where he somehow just cropped up in defensive midfield. Don't know why. I think it was after a breakaway or something. And he gave the ball to Wan-Bissaka, and then he wanted to go back to his left back. But then Wan-Bissaka gave him the ball back. Like, no, you take the ball, Luke Shaw. And it's like, you're the only person I trust with this ball in this game. It's like, yeah, pretty much. I think there was one hairy bit in the second half where he probably turned a bit too much and then turned into trouble a little bit. But other than that, he was so composed on the ball. Like, you weren't worried about his decision making. He carried it with confidence. Like,
he looked at place at that level when I thought Pogba probably was the only other one, and he had a mixed bag himself. But like technique wise and football wise, I thought he was the only one who looked like he belonged in that game. Really,
it's a testament to say, like, especially with how much praise like the Liverpool fullbacks get, that I thought he was definitely the standout fullback in the game.
Oh, definitely, yeah, I'd agree.
And I mean, we know you love Robertson, Jamie, even though he's a Liverpool player. But how do you feel like Luke Shaw did against his Scottish left back counterpart?
I thought he was. I thought Shaw was definitely the man of the match, as I said, and I thought he performed better today than Robertson did. But Robertson had a half decent game as well. The one bit I was really impressed with more than anything from Shaw was the chance that we set up that really Bruno probably should score.
Yeah.
Where he runs off the back of Rashford. Rashford plays him in. It's a great ball by Shaw to pick out Bruno, and Bruno should score. The last few games, it's really been evident that that's something that must be getting worked on in training a lot from Shaw, because his offensive part of his game is getting much better. His crossing from corners and free kicks is definitely better than I remember anyway. And that wee bit of play where he runs off the back of a player and plays a reverse pass into the box, that seems to be a more common thing that we're doing with him. And I'm just pleased for him more than anything, because it was hard at times to see exactly what his future was going to be at Man United, but it does seem as though this season, and it might well be with the signing of with Tellez, that it's just gave him the kick up the backside a wee bit, and that he knows now that there is a player that can come on and can play in that position. Okay, he's maybe not as gifted as Shaw, but there is a player ready-made to come into his position. It just seems as though he's had a new lease of life, really, this season, and especially the last 2 months or so, because he has been magic, really. He's been great, and long may it continue, really. There's a wee bit I would like to say as well in the defence. I think that's a fair point about we defend the box well, but I do think we actually are getting better from a point of view of clearing the ball in the air as well. There was at one point we had 2 corners, I think it was, in succession. McTominay gets up really well and heads it well out the box. Pogba's great at that as well, whether it's the front post or the back post, getting a good head on it and clearing it. Maguire does it. I just think we are getting better. We're still not the best, not by any means, but we are getting better at clearing the ball from a cross that's like curling in towards the near post, or if it's a flat cross to the middle of the box. We do seem to be getting better at dealing with it. It's going to take more work on, sure, but it's just good to see the defensive part of the game is getting better, and it's evidenced by the fact we are now getting clean sheets on a consistent basis.
Well, teams have started now. I think all teams pretty much set up every single corner the same against us. They just pack the 6-yard box. I think ever since that the couple of corners we conceded in a row against West Ham and Southampton, like that seems to be like the tactic. Just pack our 6-yard box, get everyone around there. But we are actually starting to win the first ball, which is important for these corners. So it's good to. You'd like to give some credit to the team and think that's something we're working on as a team, and especially Pogba. Like I think at the beginning of the season I would always say like keep Pogba as far away from our box as possible. I just don't want to see it, especially like he was giving penalties away and stuff. Like I didn't want to see him back there, but he's completely proved me wrong, because in these last few games he has been, I think, excellent defensively. Like
very good,
very big part of his game. Okay, so we have a sponsor for today's show, and it's come in the form of Manscaped. We're happy that they're sponsoring us. They are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Yes, they are. They offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide, so join the movement for all your below-the-waist grooming needs. Now, I understand, Jamie, that you have received your Manscaped package in the post. Package, pun intended.
Yes, I have.
I'm yet to get mine, so please tell me what I can look forward to.
You can look forward to quite a lot. As you said, I've just used their products very recently, and I can honestly say that I am now an instant fan. Grooming below the waist has always seemed as though it's a bit of a bad idea with a razor, so I've never really gave much thought to doing it before, but thanks to a very excellent electric trimmer known as the Lawnmower from Manscaped, that has erased all the worries for me, and I will absolutely attest to how good their mower is. The ball deodorant and the fragrance that comes with it is an absolute treat, and I can actually say that my girlfriend is a very big fan of Manscaped as well. So I definitely would advise any of the troops listening and anyone that wants to get into Manscaped to definitely do so, and you have quite a lot to look forward to, Imran.
Yeah, well, when I mentioned to my wife, is this something I need? She looked at me bluntly and just said yes. So
that was what my girlfriend did as well.
So I'm looking forward to receiving mine in the post, and on the next pod I'll talk about my experience too. So yes, you too can enjoy a cleaner shave down there. Get 20% off you can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code UnitedHour at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code UnitedHour at manscaped.com. Make your testes the besties. I guess we should probably talk about the chances we had, because we actually probably finished the game the better of the two teams. And we had the two big chances, one for Fernandes, where, I mean, both really were straight at the keeper, where you think any deviation, hit it high, hit it, with Fernandes especially, go towards the corner, like you want to hit it across the keeper there, but considering that's where all the Liverpool players were, you think if he'd actually gone for the near post, probably would have gone in. Colm, were you just... How do you feel like those chances were? Half chances, big chances?
I think they're big chances. However, I think they're both kind of instinctive chances. You know, there's not a big window. It's not like you have time to burrow down the goal and pick your spot or anything like that. So I think, you know, you're talking about literally a millisecond to make that decision and get that contact. I thought Bruno's was probably worse than Pogba's. Pogba at least connects, you know, and you know, certain times in front of goal, your decision making is, I'm going to leather this, and that's what I'm doing. It's not any more, you know, sophisticated than that, and that's what he did. And really, if it's the power on it, if it's, you know, a foot to the right, a foot to the left, a foot higher, it's a goal. There's a very small window with the players in front of him. He doesn't have the other side of the goal open to him. So I think, you know, fine. You know, I thought his was okay. It's a great save. Bruno's, I think you can connect better with that, definitely. You know, with his technique and his quality, I think when that ball's being pulled back and you just have to kind of step onto it with a side foot, you can really take that away from the keeper and find the corner. I would expect you to. So his I was slightly more disappointed with, and it was a lovely move, good football. it opened out to the point where I thought Liverpool looked tired and like they couldn't, like they'd given what they had to give in terms of the press, and it just wasn't happening anymore. Evidenced by the fact that Fred and McTominay were able to just pick it up and stroll around with it, essentially. And we certainly seem to be growing into the game and realizing that this is here for the taking. Liverpool still had periods of quality, don't get me wrong, but it was more flowing and certainly more open for us. And if either of those chances go in, I think we win the game. I think I would have been confident to defend that, because we'd already done that through the hardest part of the game. So I think the players have proven to themselves that, look, actually, we can go man for man against Man and Salah, and we can give Firmino as many free shots inside the box as we want, and we're probably not going to concede. So it's just a bit of a shame that we didn't take those chances, but they were well created. It's a bit of a shame we didn't just make more of them, and I think that really comes down to just the inconsistency and possibly the positioning of our forward players. One thing we didn't speak about in terms of the lineup was the kind of, I know Jamie touched on it briefly, but this Rashford off the middle, Martial off the left, Pogba off the right, I don't think that went well for Ole at all.
No, definitely not.
I mean, it seemed to me like Pogba didn't look as comfortable on the right as he does on the left, like because of like the coming inside, and in general, right-footed players just look a lot more comfortable on the left-hand side. They always say, like, when you're right-footed on the wing and it's not your natural position, the pitch seems quite small, whereas if you're on the left-hand side, it seems quite big because you come inside. And I think that told. And then Martial, I thought Martial actually had an okay first half. Like, he was carrying the ball out quite well, went on some good dribbles, but we weren't supporting him enough, really.
A little bit. I mean, tough game for Martial, but I just don't understand what the worth was in mixing them up like that, because
I didn't really get the tactic
Martial off the
it.
left doesn't give you anything defensively. Pogba on the right, I mean, is Robertson their big threat? Maybe, but Rashford I think would do just as much as Pogba. Pogba's going to drop in naturally anyway, even if he's playing off the left, and cover a lot of ground. So I just don't understand why it had to be that way. I think Martial, I mean, that's an indictment on his season so far, that it wasn't Cavani that he lost the number 9 to, it was Rashford. I don't think you see anything about their defensive woes that says to me, oh yeah, Rashford through the middle will be him, because
wasn't it for the ball over the top? That's what I figured. Like it seemed to outplay a tactic.
There off the left, the ball over the top's there. I mean, the ball over the top is there more off the left than it is in the middle, because you have that easy run.
Well, yeah, but we always wanted to put it down the middle for whatever reason.
Yeah,
like I said, we never really played the channels.
I don't think, and particularly with their fullbacks bombing on, it's only going to vacate more space to play that ball into anyway, whereas at least the centre-backs are constant in that sense. I just don't... Maybe it was for the runs in behind, because we know Martial doesn't really engage in that at all, which is just another kind of issue with him as a number 9, but I don't think that's a good enough reason to displace the number 9 who you've been playing there for the last 18 months, regardless of his form, because he's still on the pitch doing just as little on the left. It just, to me, that seemed to knock them all slightly off kilter, and they're particularly Rashford, Martial can be patchy players at best anyway, so I don't think you need to invite any more kind of uncertainty or complexity into their games at all, when neither of them have played those positions for basically 18 months.
I think it's like hard to guess, but maybe Ole was preparing for, is it Williams to play centre-back? Is that and he's
Neco Williams.
And he's slow as anything. So maybe that was his thinking behind
rapid
it.
as well. I just don't, like.
Yeah, but you think Rashford is? I think he just prefer. I think Ole prefers the Rashford run off the shoulder, whereas Martial seems to, especially Martial, never seems to make that run as much as Rashford. He does make it, but Martial also likes to hold it up and come short and.
I know, but lately we've been seeing Rashford come off the left and bend his run and achieve the exact same thing. So I just don't. That just seems so, that seems so random to the point of absurdity to me. If that's that's the kind of minutiae that they're looking at it, to move players out of favoured positions. Paul Pogba's never played right wing in his life for us anyway. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think so.
Whereas he has played off the left, and Rashford has been good off the right. It just seems if that's the level it's gone to, it just seemed like a bit of a mad one to me, and one that evidently I don't think worked out.
Yeah. Not that I
think it was the sole reason why those players were bad. Pogba aside, Bruno, Rashford, and Martial were all just bad. And at a certain point you're on the pitch and playing football. Your touch should still be okay, your passing should still be okay. Blah blah blah. It's not a total cop out on their part. They didn't play well.
I think Bruno. Random aside, I think Bruno should be banned from using the outside of his foot. Like,
It never really works, does it?
it never works. I've never seen a player so poorly outside of foot that does it all the time. Usually that's the thing
What
where
annoyed me
like,
about what annoyed me about Bruno today was that there's just so many passes, though. Even just a normal pass was just careless, was just not even remotely looking like it was going near to whoever he was aiming at. It was happening so many times, and I kind of laughed when I saw him cracking up at the management when he came off, and I was like, he can have no I'm one of Bruno's biggest fans, and he can have absolutely no complaints about getting hooked. I like his passion in that, but at the same time,
I think he's just annoyed at himself. I think he's just annoyed. I don't think he's genuinely saying,
that's what I said. I said that to myself, that he's frustrated with himself, but showing him cracking up like that, it's like,
because he did give Greenwood a slap just to be fired up, kind of thing. And he kind of looked frustrated. But then he gave Ole the high five as well. Like I think he's just annoyed at himself and how the game's going more than anything else. I mean, Bruno is just a beautiful child. You know, that's how he plays football, and sometimes that looks pretty bad. And today it's just the kind of game where, unless he is just absolutely on point or we get a penalty, it's probably going to pass him by anyway, you know, because it just doesn't suit. He does do silly things too often and give away a ball too frequently in a game where again, we have to treat the ball with such a reverence, you know, in terms of trying to keep it, that I just think that was always kind of going to be the way. He had a couple of good stinging shots and a very, very good free kick that was marginally wide. I mean, I would have him on the pitch. I would have kept him on, as bad as he was. You know, there'd be players I'd still take off before.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And yet he came close to scoring for us, like, on two occasions, and that's kind of Bruno, isn't it? Like,
and you can probably pick out another few little passes that we just don't even register now anymore, you know, and through balls and stuff like that were nearlies and the rest of it, you know. But there were so many absolutely, you know, blood boiling kind of giveaways at a time when you just feel like, how can you be watching the last 20 minutes of us chasing the ball around and struggling to keep a foot on it, and then when you get it, that's what you decide to do? You know, it's just madness. But that's almost the beauty of him. Like, he's mental.
Right, so that unless anyone has anything more on the game, that pretty much sums that up.
Top of the league, so
yeah.
Does it
Well,
even
that's
matter,
what I want to move on to.
Does it even matter?
We are top of the league still, although City, I think now, if they win all their games in hand, will go above us, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, keeping 3 points between us and Liverpool can only be a good thing. I think I just want to quickly touch on now our record versus quote unquote the top six. Like, I guess you could maybe put in Leicester there as well, as they're probably a better team than Arsenal now. But I mean, it's we haven't won a single game against any of those teams, and we have lost to both Arsenal and Tottenham now. I guess, I mean, on the positive, we've drawn against the two hardest teams, are City and Liverpool, and we've drawn both those games. But negatively, like, we've played home against all those teams bar Liverpool and Leicester and not won. So, I mean, are you worried? I mean, Colm touched about it on the beginning of the podcast, like, we need to find a way to win these games. So, Jamie, I'll come to you on this. Are you worried about our form in those games? Will it come in the second half of the season when we're away and we seem to like playing away?
I'm a bit worried, yeah, because Colm's right when he says you can't be playing how we've played against these teams in the last 18 months or so and continue to get away with it. Not if you're wanting to develop as a team, and we can see we are developing it as a team against, if you like, the other 14 teams in the league, but it does need some sort of resolution soon. I mean, I wouldn't include today in that purely because I've now, like, as we said, we've never enjoyed games against Liverpool. They can kind of go one way or the other, but it's not becoming an anomaly now. The games against certainly Chelsea, certainly Arsenal, certainly Tottenham, we were really, really bad, and that wasn't just going forward and not really looking like even troubling the other team. It was defensively, you weren't really that comfortable with us as well. It's only really been the Man City game, and that was one of those games I think both teams just agreed to a draw beforehand. But the City game and the Liverpool game, we looked comfortable. We looked like we could defend without any real big issues and see the game out from the defensive part of the game. But offensively, we need to be doing better. We absolutely need to be doing better. Yeah, we could have nicked it and won today, but for large parts of the game, as we've kind of just spent the last 40 minutes or so talking about, you're frustrated watching us, whether it's decision making and making the wrong pass, if it's just cheaply giving the ball away, if it's panicking in the midfield and just kind of launching a ball into no man's land, the other team win it back. it's just becoming frustrating playing against big teams, and we don't really seem to put them under any sustained pressure in the sense that we're going to go a goal up, get 2 goals up, and then, okay, we'll see the game out from that point. It just never looks likely. And it is frustrating that that's now, as you said, we've played all the big teams, if you like, and not won one game. Yeah, it's a bonus that we have to play the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, away from home, and I do think we actually will do better in both those games away from home, but it's still the really big ones, as in Man City away, Liverpool coming to Old Trafford, even Leicester. Like, Leicester are playing really well this season. I think that'll be a difficult game at Old Trafford as well. We do need to find some sort of resolution to playing against these big teams. It can't just continue.
I just think we're halfway through it.
Yeah, we maybe are, but we've got there in terms of we dominate the games against the lesser teams, if you like, now.
I mean just specifically the games against the big teams. I think you can't set up a team for a year and a half to play a very, very specific way where you play 5 at the back most of the time. Even when you don't, you play super negative with a bank of 4 and a bank of 4. You soak, and then you use this devastating Manchester United counter-attacking football that everyone has kind of pigeonholed us as. And we did that for so long and so effectively. You can't just ingrain that in a team and show them why it's so good and how they're so suited to it in terms of their attributes, particularly our forward line. And then you get, certain players you get rid of and you get in certain other players, and certain other players start to come back, and you generally play a lot of a better brand of football just in general across every game. And then when you come to the big games, do you say, yeah, well, we've been playing really good football against the Southamptons and the Evertons and the West Broms and the Burnleys, and we've been expressing ourselves and dominating the ball, but we're going to bench that and we're going to go back to playing the way we did last year? No, you don't do that. You don't. You have to then say the football we're playing in our own right is good enough to go against these teams. And I actually think our most impressive big games this year have both been losses. The second game against PSG and the game against Man City, because against PSG particularly, we played them off the park. And I know that PSG team isn't just amazing with its midfield and defence, but it's still PSG, the front three, and I know they won that game, but 3-1 in the end, and we went out of the Champions League. For the most of that game, we were brilliant. We were confident, we were press resistant, we played football, we created unbelievable opportunities. If Martial could have finished any of them, it would be a completely different story. City, similarly, against one of the most technically good teams in a system that is just really impressive in terms of high-level football, keeping the ball, the rest of it. We held our own, we played good football, but then there's these other games where we seem to hinge back to our kind of previous tactic, and it just seems to me like we're halfway there, but we're stuck in this halfway house, and I think Ole sometimes encourages it with a pragmatism that is probably required at that level of management. I understand it's not just as easy as saying we're class at football, let's go play. But when you do tinker a wee bit too much or consistently go back to McFred, I think you do send a message to your own team about what you value. And at the moment, I think we value hard work still more than we value our own football ability. But I do think it's kind of on a seesaw where before it was all hard work to the detriment of any of our football, and that's not a sustainable way to be a top team. It's not any way to be a top team, really. Whereas I think now we're going toward a good balance, but I don't think we're there yet. But I see it as a positive this year. We have to play a different way against the top teams than what we did the last few years. We have to. You can't sucker punch teams forever. Not at all. It just simply won't work. And it's bland as anything.
I agree with that. But at the same time, it just seems like so much hard work against certain teams to make any real good chances. Like, that's why I keep referencing the Chelsea game, the Arsenal game. I know we get the penalty against Spurs, but the Spurs game, and then we scored 2 against Leicester, so that's a bit of an anomaly as well, in the point I'm making. But some games against the big teams, it just seems like it's bloody hard work for us to even fashion 2 or 3 chances. I'm not saying go and batter the opposition and make loads and loads of chances for 3/4 of the game. I'm just meaning too many times we seem to still play against the top team and we just don't really manufacture any big chances. The defence is fine and I'm not really worried about the defence, but going forward I just think we do need to get better at just fashioning opportunities. I know what you're saying about playing McTominay and Fred in the midfield maybe dictates how you're going to approach the game. But with those 4 that we still have in attack, we should be able to make more chances. And McTominay and Fred aren't as good as, say, Pogba and Matic in the midfield that then passing the ball forward and getting us on the front foot, but they're still good players.
But it's a whole team thing. It's a whole team thing. There's too many weak links across the team. McTominay and Fred can't get it if the back line can't play it out to them. If McTominay and Fred can't actually take a ball, control it, and pass it forwards, then it doesn't really matter how good your front four are, because they're never going to get the ball in anything other than a half chance situation.
I think they can,
and try and lamp it forward. Do you know what I mean? I agree with you, they can, but I think that has to come from Ole. He has to tell them to go and do that, and that's kind of my whole point. Is that I think we are moving towards that. I just think he sometimes undermines that movement. I totally agree with you, actually, Jamie, that we are setting up too negatively in too many of these games, because we're still kind of, I think, in some part holding on to this DNA of last year, thinking, oh, but that was class, we beat City 4-1, all that stuff. It's a 1 in 100. It's not something to be relied on. And I think we had so much success with it, but it's been so totally figured out that it just needs to be cast aside. I think Ole could be more brave about conveying that to the players. And you know what? Like, you should go and read his post-match comment today, because he's basically saying everything we've said. That,
well, I've not seen
we know we're good now at sitting in and kind of holding on, but we don't want to just do that. We have the players to go and do better. We should do better with the players we have.
Yeah.
And, I think he always says the right thing after the fact. I think sometimes he belies the things he says with how he sets up in the beginning, if you know what I mean. But again, easy for me to say. Much more important that a Premier League elite manager is pragmatic and actually takes the draws and the points when he can and stuff like that. But I do think there has to be a shift to kind of let them loose a wee bit and say, look, man for man, we're not kicking the arse off Liverpool. They're a brilliant side, but what makes them such a good side is their system. That's why they're faltering so much at the moment, is because they're having to play two of their most important players at centre back. If you put Fabinho and Henderson in that midfield, they dominate us today, and I think they beat us comfortably, because it frees up the rest of their team to do so much better. The reason they haven't blunted his attack is not because, but they're still playing the same three players up front. It doesn't matter if the whole system is completely changed from what made it so successful due to injuries at the back, And again, that's just where we need to get to, where we need to trust that our system actually has worth in these big games, and that we don't have to do this complete Mourinho thing, of just doing a one-off tactical setup and battening down the hatches, because that's not the dream. You're never going to win a Champions League playing like that. Never.
Well, our next quote-unquote big game will be Arsenal. I think, there's Liverpool in the FA Cup, but we don't know what teams either are going to put out in that, and it's kind of away from the league. But the next league game is Arsenal. The next big league game is Arsenal at the end of the month. And so that'll be an interesting one, because Arsenal obviously not in the best of moments for them. They bit of an upturn in form recently, but then a 0-0 draw against Palace on the weekend. So it'd be interesting to see how we set up with that one, because really you'd think out of all the big games, that's not a game you need McFred for, and maybe that's when we can be a bit more expressive and try and dominate that game. So that'll be an interesting one, but that's a long way off. Next we've got Fulham away. This week. Fulham, who actually, after a bad start to the season, Scott Parker's got them a lot more organised, shipping a lot less goals now, and looking a lot more solid as a team. I think they were a bit unlucky with Chelsea, because they were probably the better team, and then they got a man sent off, and then Chelsea stumbled to a 1-0 win. 1-0 draw, bloody hell. That'd be a good result, wouldn't it? So I don't think we'll have it all our own way, but it's a game you'd expect Man United to go and win. But it will be another one of those games where the opposition sits in, looks to catch us, and all on set pieces, and we just have to find a way to get through them. So it'll be an interesting game from that front, but we should obviously look to dominate, and I think it might be one that Matic and Pogba go into the middle again, and maybe you see Cavani starting, and maybe even Mata or someone on the wing trying to unlock them, or Donny van de Beek coming in. So that'll be an interesting game. Any thoughts about the game coming up, Jamie?
I think it will be an interesting game. I've caught Fulham playing once or twice recently, and they are definitely better than they were even as recently as a month ago or 6 weeks ago. So I think it won't be straightforward, but I'm still expecting us to win convincingly. Maybe not in terms of the scoreline, but I'm still expecting us to be the much better team. Probably another performance similar to the Burnley game. I would like to see a couple of changes. I would like to see Matic brought back in. I thought he was very good against Burnley, so I think it'd be fair enough for him to get a run out. I would like to see Cavani in from the start. Pogba in the midfield back alongside Matic I think would be fine, and then Bailey probably to get another run out in the defence. So I'm looking forward, and I've looked forward to it, and I just hope to see some of the players who missed out today get a chance. I think Van de Beek's one I would like to see come in for Bruno, just to see can he, if Bruno goes off form a wee bit, is he the guy that can maybe plug that hole in the number 10 position? And it's been tough going for him, really, at times, the last few games that he's played. So I'm kind of hoping he can get a chance on Wednesday and have a good game. I think we should win convincing. I would probably predict, say, 3-0.
Colm, score prediction?
I think we'll hammer them, actually. Yeah, I think we'll score 3 or 4.
Okay.
And I think we might concede 1. Yeah, I'd say maybe 4-1. I think there's a few players who are just due a performance. I think Rashford's had not an amazing few weeks. Martial's obviously struggling. And Bruno's actually been kind of off kilter a little bit in general play. It's very much been the Pogba show lately, which is no bad thing, really, for him to grow into this team if we do want to have any kind of title challenge this year. So I'm kind of expecting a few other players to kind of bounce back in now and see Fulham as a chance to kind of re-establish themselves and get some good momentum going. So I'm expecting performances.
Yeah, hopefully we United win. So yeah, we'll get a podcast after that game. But we're not done yet, folks. We're not done yet. Because it is that time. And you're in for a treat this week, I guarantee you, because it's time for Imran's Stupid Game.
A wonderful game of football, which Manchester United have won convincingly.
But it was a breathtaking match, absolutely brilliant.
Shocking. I am disgusted with it.
Yes, another edition. And this, I don't want to tempt fate, but this could be the stupidest game of all. I'm very excited about this one. You're in for a treat, ladies and gentlemen.
The last one wasn't stupid at all. So
the last one was just
returned.
a quiz. So it's definitely better than that. We got our 2 contestants from last time, actually. We got the reigning champ, Colm. Colm, say hi.
Hi.
And Jamie, back in the hot seat again. How are you doing, Jamie?
I'm not too bad. I'm looking for a bit of redemption, so looking forward to this. Right,
well, this one is called Rain Spoonie. Yes, Rain Spoonie is the game. It's all about spoonerisms. Do you know what a spoonerism is?
I haven't a clue.
It's where you switch the first sound from letters around.
From letters around?
Yeah. So, the example... so, Wayne Rooney, a spoonerism Wayne Rooney is Rain Wooney. If that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a spoonerism.
2 words with the first letter interchanged.
Yeah. It could be the first letter or the first sound. So, for example, the example is... So, I'm going to say 2 clues, and it's a spoonerism. So, you'll give me 2 answers. So, for example, an injury-prone United centre-back and what your Auntie Gillian does on her mobile is Phil Jones, Jill phones.
Okay, yeah.
Get it?
I think I might get 0, but yeah.
No, you'll get it. So that's how it is. Jill phones, Phil Jones. Everyone at home play along. This is going to be a riot. So it'll be 2 clues. One is always football based.
Yeah.
Other might not be football based. Sometimes it is. So, okay. And by the way, this isn't like you just say your name to buzz in. So whoever says the name first will get to answer, but you have to answer straight away. Right. So, Aston Villa fullback and a potato-based mash for a feline.
Colm.
Yeah.
What's his name? What's his first name? Cash, but I can't remember his first name.
Too late. Out. Jamie, do you know it?
No.
It's Matt Cash, Cat Mash.
Matt. Couldn't remember his first name.
Matt Cash, Cat Mash is a feline potato-based product.
Yeah. I think I'm half a point there, Imran, I'm not gonna lie.
I don't give half points, Colm. I'm not a charity. Come on now. All right. Second one. Man City fullback with a shortened first name and a flexible gentleman.
Benjamin Mendy, Colm. Benjamin Bendy.
Shorten his first name?
Ben D. Yeah, okay. Mandy Bendy. I don't know what you want from here.
Ben Mendy Men Bendy. I'll give you it. Say your name first. Come on now.
Apologies.
This is going really well. This is what I was hoping for. All right. Aging Crystal Palace centre back, and when you search for a blip on a radar. And I'll give you
I can see his face and I can't remember his name.
And I'll give you a clue. The centre back used to play alongside Roger Johnson at Blackburn.
Not a clue, Imran.
Not a clue. Scott Dan. Dot scan.
Dot scan.
Jesus Christ.
Right, number 4. An offence that gives you an indirect free kick in the box. So an offence that gives you an indirect free kick in the box. And what a pescatarian does for a picnic. What a pescatarian does for a picnic. What would give you an indirect free kick in the box?
Pass a column.
Yep.
Pack bass or back pass.
Yep, that's the one.
Bass pack.
Back pass, pack bass. Or pack bass. Yep. Correct. Come on, Jamie, get in the game.
Yeah, Jamie.
I don't even know what a pescatarian is.
Someone who only eats fish, or doesn't eat meat but eats fish.
Yeah, someone who only eats fish. Right, this one, I think you can both get this one. What Harry uses to catch baseballs and Sadio's shirts and shorts.
I have no idea. Those are two different things.
No idea.
Sadio, who played today.
Yeah, I get that. Mane.
Any shirts and shorts?
No,
Nope.
I have no idea.
It's Mane's kit, Kane's mitt.
Yeah, but that's not one player.
Is that one player?
No, it's two clues. What Harry uses to catch baseballs and Sadio's shirts and shorts. So Mane's kit, Kane's mitt. It makes sense.
Is this like a game outside of your mind, like in real life or anywhere else?
This is.
I thought we were doing it off one player. I didn't realise it was like two players at a time.
I think it's just basically whatever Imran wants.
I'm giving you two clues. There's one clue and there's another clue. They're two different things. I'll put a I'll put a longer pause in between the clues. All right. Here's one.
They used to come together like Ben Mendy, the two things related to one player, whereas that's just two completely different players with two random ass clues.
Yep, two different players. Sometimes there will be two different players. There will be two different players sometimes. Right, this one's one player, and then the next one's a different clue altogether. So that should be all right for you. All right. Burnley's best striker takes a dive, and large barriers of nourishment. Yep, large barriers of nourishment.
I can only think of one Burnley striker.
Yeah, the one who scores all the goals.
Chris Wood.
Yep, and what would you do if he takes a dive? Time's up. It's wood falls, food walls.
I'm not sure, Imran, that this game makes any sense
It does.
outside of your mind.
It definitely does.
Explain that to me again. So Chris Wood.
So Burnley takes a dive, wood falls, barriers of nourishment is a food wall.
Jeez.
This is great podcasting. People at home are loving this, I'm telling you. Right. This one's actually quite great.
God, there's always so many as well.
I'm very proud of this one. Man United centre-back pairing you may have found in the treble season, and what a Geordie would say to his mother if they didn't want her to leave. So United centre-back pairing from the treble season. Not our main pairing.
It's going to be... Sorry?
Go on.
I was going to say, surely it's May.
Yep.
Yeah, and the other side of it, I have absolutely no idea. So who else?
It's United centre-back pairing, so it's May and who? Who was our main striker?
Stam.
Yep. Go on, Jamie.
Yeah, Jimmy, turn that into a Geordie saying for your man. It's mom stay.
Yeah, May Stam, stay mam. Okay, we've got two more of these. Two more.
Jesus.
Only two. Okay. Common phrase used when scoring a goal, and what someone who has an aptitude for gambling has. Common phrase for when you scoring a goal, what a commentator would say. Usually after it's in. It's in the. Nope.
Nope.
Time's up. It's the answer is back of the net, knack of the bet.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
A last one. Last one. Let's see if anyone can get this. This one makes sense, right? What Manchester United midfielder Paul inadvertently does in his sleep, and what you might take a dip in Didier's back garden. Or what you might take a swim in.
Does in his sleep?
Yeah. Outside of his mouth.
No, I don't know.
It's... Well, drooling?
Yeah.
What's that got to do with any footballer? I'm so confused.
I feel like this quiz was a bust. But it's... What Paul would inadvertently do in his sleep is Pogba drool, and it's Drogba's pool. Nope.
I genuinely don't know what you think this has to do, like, it's just impossible to arrive at. The first three kind of made sense because they were just footballers, and then after that, I feel like you've just gone down a rabbit hole in your own mind.
That was
incredible.
That was incredible. I could either leave that in or edit it out.
Yeah, that'll be a decision to be made. All right.
Dreadful. Dumb and Dumber, I'd call them. I thought they were really poor. I thought they were a joke. Really abysmal.
Right, so we'll be back after the Fulham game. Not sure who will be on. Maybe it'll be the dynamic duo of Ashwin and Nick. We do apologise for them, but you know, they do the games we can't be bothered doing. This is the dream team.
Yeah, we are.
But today we actually were on the Discord for our Patreons. We were joined by a couple of Patrons on there. We had a good time talking about the game. If you would like to join us for a bit of chat during the game on our Discord, all you have to do is sign up to our Patreon. If you go to United, search for our Patreon, you can join. A couple of tiers there. Give what you can. Much appreciated. You can also follow us on Twitter, United_Hour, and on Instagram. And obviously you can sign up to the Red Cafe and post in our thread. We all welcome the feedback and leave us a review on wherever you listen to your pods. That's it from us. Say thank you, Colm.
Thank you.
And say thank you, Jamie.
Cheers, troops.